let's go on to the next team here. The St. Louis Blues. They only have 625,000 in cap space. Now, we're going to get into it, obviously, in a little bit more detail. But I was a little bit shocked, in my opinion, with... how would I put this? With the departure of Husso. I was kind of surprised. But let's get into this forward lineup. You got Ryan O'Reilly, you got Vladimir Tarasenko making 7.5, and on the back end, the high earners Kevin Falk and Torrey Krug 6.5, and now Colton Perico as well 6.5. And they have Jordan Peterson. I almost said Jordan Peterson. Wow. I'm sorry, Jordan Binnington. Apologies. At $6 million, and then Thomas Grice is the backup. Let's get into the depth chart for the St. Louis Blues. All right, so let's look at the first line. They have... I don't agree with this. Brandon Saad...
mixed up. Yeah, I think their first and second line are backwards.
That's not right. Brandon Saad, Ryan O'Reilly, and Jordan Kyrou. 78 games played for Saad, 24 goals, 25 assists, 49 points. For O'Reilly, 78 games played, 21 goals, 37 assists, 58 points. And then Jordan Kyrou, 74 games played, 27 goals, 48 assists, 75 points. Like, Kyrou point per game, Riley and Saad were respectable. Let's get in the next line. Pavel Buchev.
Booch. New York Ranger thing. Sorry.
73 games played, 30 goals, 46 assists, 76 points. Phenomenal. Robert Thomas, 72 games played, 20 goals, 57 assists, 77 points. Phenomenal. Vladimir Tarasenko had a bounce-back year. 75 games played, 34 goals, 48 assists for 82 points. And then on the third line, you have Ivan Barbashev. 81 games played, 26 goals, 34 assists for 60 points. And then you have Brandon Shen, 62 games played, 24 goals, 34 assists, 58 points. And then you have Klim Kostin, 40 games played, 4 goals, 5 assists for 9 points. Then you have on the fourth line, Nathan Walker, 30 games played, 8 goals, 4 assists, 12 points. Logan Brown, 39 games played, 4 goals, 7 assists for 11 points. You have Noel Chari, very good fourth line grinder, 20 games played, 3 goals, 5 assists for 8 points. I mean, if you look, man, this team definitely has some promise here. Mm-hmm. I think, I mean, I hate to do it to them, but I think Saad and O'Reilly are more the third line guys at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I would switch Saad and Riley for Barbashev and Shen, my opinion. Because, like, look at Shen.
I agree.
I mean, like, O'Reilly's the heart and soul of that team. But, I mean, maybe he has a bounce. I mean, it's not like he played awful last year, but, I mean, Shen had such a phenomenal year. I don't see this making much sense.
I think as they enter the season, they'll probably be messing around with the second line. I think that Buchnevich, Thomas, and Tarasenko line are going to be the number one. I think between that Saad, O'Reilly, Kyrou, Barbashev, Shen, and Kostin, I think that's going to be the mix to see which line or which connections best suit the second line and third line. Because obviously everybody can play with respectable numbers. I think Kyrou stays on the second line. I think that between Shen and O'Reilly, I mean, they're both the same age. Both very similar in physique. I think that you probably just kind of keep it where it's at. You'll probably leave O'Reilly, considering he's a heart and soul, on the second line. Leave Shen on the third line. And then just move around the wingers to see which one suits who best. So you give yourself the best opportunity to win. I mean, the fourth line, not horrible, because as you can see, the goal differential, they didn't really allow too many, when it comes to plus minus, they didn't really allow too many goals. It was very evenish. So that's what you want from your fourth line. If you're not going to go out there and score me goals, I don't need you to go ahead and let people score goals. And I think that's kind of what they accomplished. So as far as like that, the fourth line being established, I think that's good. I think that having a young center winger that's getting into his prime with a winger that's already in his prime is going to help them a little bit more if they get that chemistry and maybe add some additional scoring. Then I think that they'll be much better off. But yeah, that's how I feel about their forwards.
I mean, let's get into their defense. You got Marcos Candela, 70 games played, 3 goals, 11 assists for 14 points. You got Colton Perico, 80 games played, 6 goals, 29 assists for 35 points. You have Torrey Krug, who does what he does best, his point production. 64 games played, 9 goals, 34 assists for 43 points. You got Justin Falk, 76 games, 16 goals, 31 assists for 47 points. You have Nick Leddy, 75 games played, 3 goals, 21 assists, 24 points. You have Robert Bertuzzo, 73 games played, 1 goal, 5 assists for 6 points. Now, I'm not that big on this decor. I mean, I think any team that has Torrey Krug on it gets hurt because his defense isn't amazing, right? So, I think if you're going to try to make a playoff run, I think Krug is not a guy you can build your team around. I think he's a very good offensive D-man, but outside of that, in very tough games, I don't believe in him until he proves me wrong. I just don't see it. And Nick Leddy, I think, is,
I think he's a good addition. Listen, I think he's a good addition for what they're building here. Just because he is a grind out heart kind of guy. Yeah, last season he was split his time between 2 different teams. But I think I watched him on the Islanders for quite some time, and he's gonna give you everything he's got. He's gonna play that grind game. He's gonna help shut down any offensive player that they put against him. Yeah, he's 31. He's really not an old 31. He still looks really good on the ice. I think he can still kind of hold his own. But I like that addition to their lineup. I just really think that it's going to be one of those that, going into a season, you play a full season with Leddy. Not only are his teammates going to fall in love with him, but the fans are going to love him too.
I mean, I will say this with Nick Leddy. I think he has a nice part of his game. I look at this decor and I'm looking, where is he going to get these minutes? I mean, he had 21 minutes last season, and
but he played on Detroit. Detroit would put anybody on the ice at any time. I mean, they were struggling all season, to really find an identity. I mean, they traded him to St. Louis towards the end of the season, where he still was able to make somewhat of an impact when he got there. He still put up some points, but I mean, yeah, he was probably playing, top defensive pairing on Detroit. He's not a top defensive guy. You're looking at a bottom 4. Maybe he can sneak into a second defensive pair here or there. But on this team, if he sits on the third defensive pair, you have a really good defenseman on the third defensive pair.
Yeah, and true. And you've had him paired with a bigger body with Bertuzzo, or
Yeah.
I think it could work, but I say they're an average defense. I don't know. I'm not a big Torrey Krug fan defensively. I don't know. Until I'm proven wrong in that, maybe I'm being harsh. I don't know. It's very subtle. They'll be good in the
Boston in you. That's the Boston in you. I know.
Facts. So let's get into goaltenders.
Yeah.
Jordan Binnington, 37 games played, 3.13 goals against, 901 save percentage, 18 wins, 14 losses. They brought in Thomas Grice, 31 games played, 3.66 goals against, 891 save percentage, 10 wins, 15 losses. I think they took a downgrade getting rid of Husso. Husso not coming back hurt this team because, listen, Binnington played well in the playoffs, right? But he was awful last season. He was absolutely awful. He was dog water. He was not the same guy. The one thing that worries me with Binnington, it's if the stakes aren't super high, and this is going to be weird when I say this, he reminds me of Quick like this. Quick sometimes, some regular seasons, would be kind of mediocre, and then he turned it on in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But I do worry, if Binnington gets into this mindset where he's like, I don't really need to try, it could cost them some games.
Very inconsistent.
Yeah, he's very up and down. It's kind of, I mean, he had that great cup run, and then after that, it's not been that same level of consistency. And, I mean, I don't think he's a $6 million goalie, not by any chance in my mind.
Not at all.
I think you pay him around 3-4 mil for that run, makes more sense. And Thomas Grice, I think he's washed. I think he's way past his prime. And
well, I'm not going to sit here and say he didn't have a horrible season last season, but he was on Detroit. Let's face it. Any goaltender on Detroit was just always going to look awful. I mean, he somehow made it work the season before. He had a decent season between 2021. He had a 2.70 goals against average with a .912 save percentage while he was on Detroit. But then obviously the following year, which was last year, he had a 3.66 goals against average with a .891 save percentage. Right.
I mean, maybe I'm being a bit too hard on Grice. Maybe that to be okay. I'll be fair. That's a good backup signing. That's a good backup signing. But what worries me is, right, Husso stepped into that slot of being the number one goalie for the whole season, when Binnington more of in a backup role. I don't think Grice can repeat that. Now, obviously, you couldn't pay two goalies millions and millions of dollars. You couldn't. It wouldn't make sense logistically. Right. I mean, the Blues hitched their wagon to that Binnington train. But I am a bit concerned for that. I think their goalie situation is at the best average. I mean, what are your thoughts? Like, if you were going to say, like, are they top tier, mid tier?
I definitely have to say they're mid tier. I think Grice will improve his numbers. I think he's going to take a step up. As funny as it sounds, with a better defense and better team in front of him compared to when he was on Detroit. I think that he'll improve them overall in the back end just a tad, just because, again, he hasn't since maybe 4 or 5 years ago when the Islanders was still competing at a higher level. He was actually, he was there holding it down and doing things that a number one would do. Obviously since then, the Islanders started falling apart. He ended up getting tossed from the team. Well, traded off or let go, whatever it was. Ended up on Detroit, where he had one good season, one phenomenal season for the team that they had in front of him. And then he had what you would expect with the team they had in front of him. So now he comes into a situation where a team is a little bit more stable. So I think that he'll probably have a lot to prove, even at his age, and he will take us a bounce back season here and improve. Now, Binnington is the wild card here because of his inconsistencies. It's one of those things. It's like, what are you doing? What are you going to do? And if he can find the consistency in this game this season, right, which nobody's looking to really honestly believe that he can, but if he does, right, then it'll be a solid back end. But still, I think the back end defense with goalie included is looking very average compared to some of the other teams in this league and the offensive power they bring.
So for me, let's go into the standings. They finished third last season, 49 wins, 22 losses with 11 overtime losses. That's actually surprisingly high for a top three team in that division. I see them finishing fourth just because I look at Nashville and I think Nashville's a better team on paper. I could be proven wrong. I like Nashville's goalie situation better. I like their defense a lot better. Offense is comparable, if not maybe a smidge better in some regard. Well, I wouldn't say better. Probably, I would give St. Louis the edge offensively, now thinking about it. But I know I think Nashville is a more well-rounded team. So I'm going to say that St. Louis finishes fourth in that division.
I actually have them, lucky if they finish fourth, but I have them placing fifth in this division. I just feel like they may have lost a step. Yeah, your top line found its stride last season, but one, we don't know how consistent that's going to be if they continue that.
Right.
Because any step back and the whole team takes a step back, right? So they need to
Right.
play at that top level. And then, with the guys that they have on their team right now, it's one of those things. It's like if everybody doesn't do what they did last season or take that step up, they're just going to fall right back down to fifth. And I think that Dallas, although Dallas isn't the greatest team out here, I think they're a little more solidified overall if everyone's playing well.
I would definitely have to agree. I think there's a lot to be said that this division is just so deep, and I don't know. I don't see enough there from St. Louis to really have me buy in for them to finish even. I mean, I'll give them fourth, but there is actually a part of me that I could see them sliding down to fifth. That's not a bad. I mean, I'm just being honest. I just don't necessarily see a top tier team. I think they're not going to be able to repeat what they did last season. So,